Welcome back to the Lost Fell Chronicle. Tonight, we delve into a narrative that defies simple explanation. This is not folklore. This is not myth. This is not a ghost story, nor is it mere speculation. What unfolds tonight is drawn from documented accounts, from official reports that were buried, sealed, and deliberately hidden from public view for decades. We are not pursuing legends. We are unearthing facts. Our journey takes us to the desolate heart of the Gobi Desert, a landscape often perceived as barren and unchanging. But beneath its vast, silent expanse, something profound occurred. Something that left an indelible mark, an imprint on the very fabric of history and geography. We will navigate through forgotten expeditions, decipher cryptic cartographic anomalies, and confront the unsettling implications of an ancient discovery. This is the story of an event too immense to ignore, too strange to fully comprehend, yet undeniably real. It challenges our understanding of the past and casts a long shadow into our present. The Gobi's silent vault, its imprint revealed. Listen closely. The desert has much to tell. The Whispering Sands. The year was 1948. A Soviet geological survey team, operating deep within the Mongolian Gobi, made an unexpected discovery. Their primary mission was to map critical mineral deposits, but what they encountered diverged significantly from any known geological formation in the region. According to Dr. Andrei Volkov's initial field notes, meticulously translated and later declassified, the team stumbled upon a colossal, perfectly circular depression. This immense feature, spanning several kilometers, exhibited a symmetry far too precise to be attributed to a natural impact crater or a volcanic caldera. Furthermore, the sand within this peculiar anomaly displayed highly unusual magnetic properties, causing sensitive survey equipment and standard compasses to behave erratically. Moscow's immediate reaction combined skepticism with an intense, almost urgent, curiosity. Official records indicate that within weeks, a specialized scientific detachment comprising leading physicists, geologists, and cartographers was hastily dispatched to the remote Gobi site. Their directive was unambiguous: thoroughly investigate the anomaly and definitively determine its origin, all under a strict, pervasive veil of secrecy. Early interim reports from this detachment, later surfacing through unofficial channels, presented perplexing contradictions. While initial geological assessments conclusively ruled out a meteoric origin, subsequent seismic readings recorded an anomalous density beneath the depression's geometric center, a finding entirely inconsistent with the surrounding sedimentary rock layer. Moreover, detailed interviews with local nomadic tribes, conducted by the expedition's ethnographers, revealed ancient oral traditions referring to the area with both profound reverence and deep-seated fear, calling it the Eye of the Earth. These long-held beliefs directly conflicted with the scientific assumption of a recent, previously unknown event. By early 1949, all overt public references to the Gobi anomaly vanished. The official Soviet press maintained a complete silence on the matter, instead reporting only on unrelated, successful mineral explorations elsewhere in Mongolia. All internal expedition documents, including Dr. Volkov's detailed observations and the detachment's findings, were summarily reclassified under top secret and sealed. The entire region surrounding the Eye was concurrently declared a highly restricted military zone, effectively erasing its existence from public knowledge. This abrupt and comprehensive suppression immediately raised alarm among the few scientists who were privy to the initial discovery. Decades later, following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, fragments of the original classified documentation slowly began to emerge. High-resolution satellite imagery from the late 20th century, compared to earlier topographical maps, revealed a subtle but persistent alteration in the desert landscape, precisely coinciding with Volkov's reported coordinates. Modern geophysical analysis, utilizing these newly accessible records, now strongly suggests a deeper, far more complex subsurface structure than initially understood, lending significant weight to theories of an artificial, rather than natural, origin. The central, enduring question persists. What monumental force or intelligence could have engineered such a colossal, geometrically perfect structure in one of the world's most isolated deserts? And why was its very existence so meticulously expunged from recorded history? The whispering sands of the Gobi guarded their secret for generations, yet the profound imprint of something extraordinary ultimately refused to remain silent forever. Echoes in the dust. The initial Soviet geological team, led by Dr. Volkov, found themselves grappling with an unprecedented phenomenon. Beyond the sheer scale and geometric precision of the Gobi Depression, the physical properties of the site presented immediate, baffling challenges. The sand within the vast circular anomaly, far from being ordinary desert sediment, exhibited a peculiar, almost crystalline structure and an unnaturally dark hue. This unique composition caused significant anomalies in electromagnetic readings. Official reports from the early 1949 scientific detachment detail repeated failures of standard surveying equipment within the perimeter of the circular depression. Compasses spun wildly. Radio communications were intermittently disrupted, and even basic photographic film developed with unusual distortions. These technical malfunctions were immediately flagged as highly unusual, hinting at an unknown energy source or a complex material interaction within the sand itself. The team's immediate confusion stemmed from the fact that no known geological or meteorological event could explain such widespread and persistent interference. Moscow's response escalated rapidly from initial scientific curiosity to a full-scale, highly compartmentalized investigation. The Politburo, according to declassified internal memoranda, established a special commission to oversee the Gobi project, bypassing standard scientific channels. This unusual administrative structure indicated that the implications of the discovery were deemed to extend far beyond mere geology. The official directive emphasized not just investigation, but also containment and strategic analysis of any potential applications. However, the findings of the scientific detachment quickly presented stark contradictions. While initial reports from geophysicists confirmed the presence of a massive, non-terrestrial object buried beneath the depression, subsequent analyses by materials scientists found no evidence of known metallic alloys or conventional composites. The object, whatever it was, appeared to be composed of an entirely unknown substance, resistant to conventional probes, and exhibiting an inexplicable stability even under extreme pressure. These inconsistencies fueled internal debates and deepened the mystery, challenging the very foundations of contemporary scientific understanding. The official narrative surrounding the Gobi anomaly was not merely silenced, it was systematically overwritten. All field notes, photographic negatives, and scientific data pertaining to the eye of the Earth were seized and relocated to a secure facility in the Urals. Key personnel involved in the initial discovery and subsequent investigation were reassigned to unrelated projects or placed under strict non-disclosure agreements, effectively severing their connection to the event. This deliberate suppression ensured that no independent analysis or public discourse could ever question the official, non-existent record. Modern reanalysis, fueled by the gradual declassification of fragmented Soviet-era documents and advancements in remote sensing technology, offers new perspectives. Satellite radar topography, for instance, has since revealed a perfectly symmetrical subsurface structure extending nearly a kilometer beneath the Gobi floor, directly correlating with the reported anomaly. Furthermore, independent spectral analysis of soil samples from the region, obtained through covert means, has detected trace elements not found anywhere else in the Gobi, suggesting a contamination event of unprecedented scale and origin. The unanswered question echoes across the vast, silent desert. What monumental secret lies entombed beneath the sands, and what was its true purpose? The Gobi continues to hold its breath, a silent witness to an event that reshaped not just its landscape, but potentially the very trajectory of human understanding. The cartographer's obsession. Among the specialized scientific detachment dispatched to the Gobi in early 1949 was a brilliant but notoriously meticulous cartographer named Dr. Pavel Korolev. His task was to precisely map the circular depression and its immediate surroundings, providing the foundational geospatial data for all subsequent investigations. What Korolev discovered, however, transcended mere topography and became a lifelong, dangerous obsession. His initial surveys, conducted with an array of advanced, albeit experimental, Soviet equipment, revealed an astonishing degree of geometric precision. The circular depression was not merely round, it was a perfect circle, with deviations measuring less than 1 part in 10,000, a level of accuracy unheard of in natural formations of such immense scale. More disturbingly, Korolev's detailed magnetic field readings, cross-referenced with gravitational surveys, indicated a complex, multi-layered structure beneath the surface, far exceeding the initial estimates. The immediate confusion among the detachment's leadership stemmed from the impossibility of such a colossal, perfectly engineered structure existing naturally, or even being constructed by any known human civilization. The official response from Moscow, as documented in internal directives, was to immediately isolate Korolev's findings. His detailed maps and accompanying technical reports were designated special access only, even within the already restricted project. This compartmentalization suggested that the implications of his cartographic precision were recognized as uniquely significant, perhaps even more so than the material composition or electromagnetic anomalies reported by other teams. It became clear that the geometric perfection itself was a profound problem. Korolev's subsequent, more detailed reports presented a series of escalating contradictions. While initial seismic soundings suggested a solid monolithic object beneath the sand, his advanced gravimetric data indicated a hollow, perhaps even multi-chambered, structure. Furthermore, his analysis of the surrounding desert geology showed no evidence of earth displacement, excavation, or spoil piles that would accompany the construction of such a vast, sunken edifice. This absence of conventional construction evidence directly challenged the assumption that the object, if artificial, had been built on site. The suppression of Korolev's work was swift and absolute. His original hand-drawn maps and photographic plates, along with his meticulous field journals, were confiscated and transferred to a secure archive in Siberia. He himself was reassigned to a remote mapping project in the far north, effectively exiling him from the Gobi investigation and from any further contact with its secrets. The official reason cited was health concerns, a common euphemism used to silence inconvenient truths within the Soviet system. This deliberate removal ensured that the cartographic evidence of the anomaly's impossible precision remained hidden. Years later, after the Soviet collapse, fragments of Korolev's suppressed work began to surface. A former colleague, risking severe repercussions, anonymously leaked microfilmed sections of Korolev's final report. These documents included calculations suggesting that the Gobi Depression's dimensions correlated with obscure astronomical constants, hinting at a deliberate, perhaps even communicative, design. Modern reanalysis of these leaked calculations, utilizing advanced computational models, has confirmed the remarkable precision of Korolev's original measurements and the mathematical elegance of the structure's layout. The unanswered question now takes a chilling turn. If the Gobi anomaly was not merely a buried object, but a precisely engineered structure designed with a specific, perhaps cosmic, purpose, what message was it intended to convey? Dr. Korolev's obsession, once dismissed as professional eccentricity, now appears to have been a desperate attempt to decode a blueprint far beyond human comprehension. A shadow on the horizon. Even as Dr. Korolev meticulously mapped the impossible geometry beneath the Gobi, another unsettling dimension of the anomaly began to emerge. Reports from local nomadic communities spoke of strange aerial phenomena, flickering lights in the night sky, localized weather disturbances, and even unusual sonic events emanating from the desolate region. These anecdotal accounts, initially dismissed as folklore, gained credence when early Soviet reconnaissance flights reported inexplicable instrument malfunctions and visual distortions when passing over the circular depression. The scientific detachment, already struggling with the ground-level mysteries, found themselves grappling with these new atmospheric anomalies. Meteorological equipment deployed near the site registered no conventional explanations for the reported localized storms or unusual wind patterns. Pilots from the initial reconnaissance missions, beyond reporting radio interference, described compasses spinning erratically in altimeters, providing wildly fluctuating readings directly above the anomaly. This immediate confusion highlighted the pervasive and multifaceted nature of the Gobi's influence, extending from the deep earth to the very air above it. Moscow's official response was swift and indicative of heightened concern. A specialized air reconnaissance unit, equipped with experimental sensor packages, was dispatched to the Gobi. Operating under strict radio silence, their primary directive was to verify the atmospheric disturbances and assess any potential aerial implications of the buried structure. The Politburo's decree, according to declassified documents, emphasized the need for absolute secrecy regarding these aerial observations, suggesting a recognition of their profound strategic importance. However, the findings of this elite air unit presented a series of stark contradictions. While their advanced instruments confirmed the presence of unusual energy, signatures radiating upwards from the depression, the nature of these emissions was inconsistent. Some flight logs recorded powerful, pulsed energy bursts, while others described a constant, low-level field that subtly warped electromagnetic signals. Crucially, official reports stated no consistent visual light phenomena or sonic booms were recorded by the air crews, directly contradicting many of the persistent local eyewitness accounts. This discrepancy fueled internal debates and cast doubt on the reliability of external reports. The suppression of these aerial findings was even more stringent than the ground-level discoveries. All flight logs, sensor data, and pilot debriefings were immediately classified top secret and sealed. Air crews involved were subjected to extensive psychological evaluations, their accounts often dismissed as stress-induced hallucinations or sensor ghosts. A deliberate campaign was initiated to discredit any local accounts of strange aerial phenomena, labeling them as superstitious interpretations of natural events or even propaganda from rival powers. This systematic silencing ensured that the atmospheric dimension of the Gobi anomaly remained deeply buried. Decades later, with the gradual declassification of specific flight logs and redacted sensor data, a different picture began to emerge. Independent analysis of these fragmented records by modern astrophysicists suggests that the official dismissals were premature. Anomalous energy spikes, correlating precisely with the Gobi site, were indeed recorded, albeit with technology that was then poorly understood. Furthermore, newly accessible satellite imagery, analyzed with advanced algorithms, shows subtle, persistent atmospheric disturbances directly above the Gobi anomaly, even today, though far less pronounced than the initial reports. The unanswered question now looms large. If the Gobi Vault was not merely a buried structure, but also an emitter of energy that profoundly affected the atmosphere, what was its true range and purpose? Was it a power source, a beacon, or perhaps a sophisticated defense mechanism, projecting an invisible shield into the skies above the silent vault? The shadow on the horizon was not just a metaphor. It was a tangible, energetic emanation from the Gobi's depths. The unseen boundary. As Soviet investigations deepened into the Gobi anomaly, a new and profoundly perplexing phenomenon emerged. An invisible, seemingly impenetrable boundary surrounding the circular depression. Initial ground teams attempting to establish a closer perimeter reported unusual resistance and disorientation when approaching a specific distance from the center. Vehicles experienced inexplicable engine stalls and electrical failures, while personnel described a sudden, overwhelming sense of vertigo and nausea. This was not a physical wall, but an unseen barrier that repelled or disrupted anything that attempted to cross it. The immediate confusion among the scientific and military leadership was palpable. Instruments designed to detect electromagnetic fields, gravitational anomalies, or sonic barriers registered only erratic and contradictory readings at the boundary's edge. Attempts to breach it with heavy machinery proved futile. Equipment would simply cease functioning or veer away without human intervention. This invisible perimeter, extending roughly 2 kilometers from the depression's center, presented an absolute and unyielding obstacle to further direct access, effectively sealing off the primary site. The official response from Moscow, as detailed in secure communiques from the State Security Committee, was to declare the entire area a zone of exclusion. A heavily armed military cordon was established far beyond the invisible boundary, with strict orders to prevent any unauthorized entry or exit. Documentation from this period indicates a directive to study the boundary's properties remotely, utilizing long-range sensors and observation posts, rather than attempting direct engagement. The focus shifted from direct exploration to understanding the nature of this unseen, protective field. However, the zone of exclusion presented its own series of contradictions. While most attempts to cross the boundary failed, there were documented instances of small, non-metallic objects, such as birds or tumbleweeds, passing through seemingly unimpeded. Conversely, certain types of electronic signals, like specific radio frequencies, were entirely absorbed or reflected, creating a localized communications blackout. This inconsistent permeability suggested a complex, perhaps intelligent filtering mechanism rather than a simple, static force field. Official logs also recorded brief, localized fluctuations in the boundary's intensity, sometimes allowing equipment to function marginally closer before failing again. The suppression of information regarding this impenetrable boundary was paramount. All personnel assigned to the Gobi project were subjected to stringent secrecy oaths, with specific penalties for discussing the invisible wall. Maps of the exclusion zone deliberately omitted any mention of the boundary's true nature, depicting it merely as a military no-go area. Any reports of accidental breaches or unusual phenomena at the perimeter were immediately classified and archived under extreme access restrictions, ensuring that the public, and even most government officials, remained entirely unaware of this extraordinary barrier. Modern reanalysis of the limited declassified reports, coupled with advanced theoretical physics, suggests the Gobi boundary might be a manifestation of exotic matter or a highly localized space-time distortion. Some researchers speculate it could be a form of energy shield, capable of selectively interacting with matter and energy based on unknown parameters. The inconsistent behavior hints at a dynamic system, possibly adapting or reacting to external stimuli, a concept far beyond the technological capabilities of the mid-20th century. The unanswered question remains profound. What is the true nature of this unseen boundary, and what purpose does it serve? Is it a passive defense mechanism, an active deterrent, or perhaps a containment field designed to prevent something from escaping the vault? The Gobi's silent vault is not merely buried. It is actively guarded by an invisible force, hinting at a power and intent far greater than initially conceived. The archivist's ledger. The pervasive secrecy surrounding the Gobi anomaly was not entirely absolute. Decades after the initial Soviet investigations, a cache of meticulously organized documents surfaced, attributed to a low-level archivist within the Soviet Academy of Sciences, named Anatoly Volkov. Volkov, tasked with cataloging peripheral scientific reports, had evidently begun compiling a personal ledger of observations and unofficial communications concerning the Gobi site, driven by what he perceived as glaring inconsistencies in the official narrative. His private collection, discovered posthumously by distant relatives, became known as the archivist's ledger. The immediate confusion generated by Volkov's ledger was profound. It contained detailed accounts from researchers who had been officially reassigned or silenced, offering perspectives that sharply diverged from the sanitized reports. For instance, the ledger included transcribed interviews with pilots who reported visual contact with structured aerial objects above the Gobi, not merely instrument malfunctions, directly contradicting the official stance. These unofficial records painted a far more complex and unsettling picture than the controlled information released by the State Security Committee. Moscow's response to the mere existence of such a private compilation, even years after Volkov's death, was swift and decisive. Official records indicate a rapid deployment of agents to secure the ledger, though they were ultimately unsuccessful in retrieving all copies. A directive from the KGB, later declassified, ordered a thorough investigation into any unauthorized dissemination of sensitive information and a re-evaluation of security protocols around deceased personnel. The state's reaction underscored the enduring sensitivity of the Gobi project and the threat posed by any alternative narratives. The ledger provided numerous stark contradictions to the established facts. It contained entries detailing an earlier discovery timeline, suggesting some knowledge of the Gobi anomaly predated the official 1950s expedition by several years. Furthermore, Volkov's notes referenced indigenous accounts of the Gobi site that spoke not of an ancient ruin, but of a periodically active starfall place that glowed with an internal light. These descriptions were entirely absent from official ethnographic studies, which had dismissed local folklore as irrelevant. The meticulous cross-referencing within the ledger highlighted these omissions as deliberate. The suppression of Volkov's ledger, though incomplete, was effective for decades. The surviving copies were fragmented, often incomplete, and difficult to authenticate in the absence of original sources. Those who attempted to publish or even discuss its contents faced professional censure, or in some documented cases, unexplained disappearances of their research materials. The official line remained that Volkov's work was the misguided obsession of a fringe academic, his notes dismissed as speculative and unreliable. Modern reanalysis, however, offers a different perspective. Forensic document analysis has largely authenticated the surviving pages of Volkov's ledger, confirming his meticulous record-keeping and the consistency of his sources. Researchers today view the ledger as a crucial counter-narrative, providing context for the official reports and revealing the extent of information control. It offers tantalizing hints of a deeper, pre-Soviet understanding of the Gobi anomaly, suggesting the Soviets were not the first to encounter its secrets. The unanswered question that persists from the archivist's ledger is particularly unsettling. If Volkov's unofficial timeline is accurate, implying earlier knowledge of the Gobi anomaly, who else knew about it, and what did they discover before the Soviets? The ledger hints at a continuity of observation stretching back further than officially acknowledged, suggesting a much longer history of human interaction with the Gobi's silent vault. This raises the possibility that the Soviets merely rediscovered a mystery that others had already encountered, and perhaps failed to comprehend. A pattern emerges. The fragmented data from the Soviet investigations, now augmented by Volkov's ledger and subsequent declassified analyses, began to reveal a disconcerting pattern. Researchers, cross-referencing seismic data, atmospheric readings, and even the anecdotal accounts from local populations, identified a series of low-frequency energy pulses emanating from the Gobi Depression. These pulses were not constant but occurred at precise, cyclical intervals, almost as if following a predetermined schedule. The discovery of this rhythmic emission fundamentally shifted the understanding of the anomaly from a static, buried object to something dynamically active. The immediate confusion surrounding these pulses was immense. Standard geological processes could not account for such precise periodicity. The energy signatures were unlike any known natural phenomenon or man-made signal. Initial theories ranged from geological stress releases to atmospheric resonance, but none could explain the consistent timing and unique waveform. The pulses were subtle, often requiring sophisticated filtering to detect, making their prior omission from official reports understandable, yet now glaringly significant. The official Soviet response, as documented in newly accessible internal memos from the 1970s, was to categorize these emissions as anomalous geodynamic events and to intensify remote monitoring. There was a clear directive to avoid public disclosure, framing any detected activity as natural seismic tremors. Covert listening posts were established around the exclusion zone, primarily to record and analyze these pulses, indicating a deep, if unacknowledged, concern within the highest echelons of the Soviet scientific and military establishment. However, the pattern of these pulses presented a series of profound contradictions. While the periodicity was remarkably consistent, the intensity of the emissions varied significantly. Some pulses were barely detectable, while others registered as distinct, localized seismic events. More strikingly, Volkov's ledger contained pre-Soviet-era accounts referencing the mountain's breath, or the desert's heartbeat, descriptions that precisely matched the rhythmic nature of these energy pulses, suggesting a much longer history of this phenomenon, overlooked or deliberately ignored by official science. The suppression of this pattern was meticulously executed. Data regarding the pulses was compartmentalized with different scientific teams, receiving only fragments of information, preventing any single group from grasping the full cyclical nature of the emissions. Reports that attempted to synthesize this data were often flagged for excessive speculation or lack of empirical verification, and subsequently buried. The goal was to prevent any coherent understanding of the Gobi's active state from emerging, maintaining the narrative of a dormant, ancient site. Modern reanalysis, leveraging advanced signal processing techniques, has confirmed the existence and precise periodicity of these pulses. Researchers have identified at least 3 distinct harmonic frequencies within the emissions, suggesting a complex multi-layered system at work. The consistency of the pattern, spanning decades and potentially centuries, points to an internal mechanism that operates with extraordinary precision and resilience, far beyond human engineering capabilities of the era. The unanswered question now pressing upon investigators is the purpose of this rhythmic pattern. Is it a form of communication, a power signature, or perhaps the byproduct of an unknown technology performing some internal function? The Gobi's silent vault is not merely an inert relic. It is an active entity, subtly broadcasting its presence in a language yet to be deciphered. This rhythmic pattern suggests a deliberate, perhaps even intelligent, process unfolding beneath the desert, hinting at a purpose far grander than a simple buried artifact. The weight of ages. The Gobi's silent vault, as official reports had initially portrayed it, was an inert, ancient enigma. However, the emerging patterns of rhythmic pulses and the persistent contradictions from unofficial sources began to challenge this fundamental assumption. Researchers delved deeper into the geological and archaeological records of the region, seeking any evidence that might corroborate the notion of a dynamically active site. What they discovered was not a single event, but a history of subtle, yet significant environmental alterations radiating outwards from the anomaly, subtly imprinted on the landscape itself. The immediate confusion arose from the sheer scale and subtlety of these alterations. These were not catastrophic changes, but rather long-term, localized shifts in soil composition, mineral distribution, and even localized magnetic fields. For instance, core samples taken from miles around the central anomaly revealed unusual concentrations of rare earth elements, particularly those associated with extreme geological pressures or extraterrestrial impact events, yet without any corresponding impact crater. The data was perplexing, suggesting a process of material transformation rather than simple deposition. Official scientific responses, prior to the major Soviet expeditions, largely dismissed these anomalies as natural geological variations or localized mineral deposits. Geologists conducting surveys in the region in the early 20th century noted some unusual readings, but attributed them to the Gobi's unique volcanic history or localized meteoritic dust. These findings were often relegated to footnotes in broader reports, never drawing sufficient attention to trigger a comprehensive, focused investigation. The prevailing scientific paradigm simply did not allow for such widespread, yet localized environmental signatures without a clear, explainable cause. However, a careful re-examination of these older geological surveys, alongside newly available satellite imagery, revealed glaring contradictions. The distribution of these unusual elements and magnetic anomalies formed concentric rings around the Gobi anomaly, directly correlating with the source of the rhythmic pulses. This spatial pattern was too precise to be random. Furthermore, paleomagnetic studies indicated localized shifts in magnetic pole orientation within these rings that did not align with the global geomagnetic record, suggesting an intense, localized magnetic influence that had persisted for millennia. The suppression of these findings was largely passive, a consequence of scientific compartmentalization and the lack of a unifying theory. Individual researchers might note an oddity, but without the broader context provided by later Soviet investigations and Volkov's ledger, these isolated observations were easily dismissed or simply filed away. There was no concerted effort to conceal, but rather a collective failure to connect disparate pieces of evidence, allowing the true scale of the anomaly's influence to remain hidden in plain sight. Modern reanalysis, however, has brought these scattered observations into sharp focus. Advanced geophysical modeling now allows for the creation of 3D maps of the Gobi's subsurface, clearly illustrating the anomaly's persistent influence on its environment. Researchers have identified subtle, long-term changes in the water table and even localized climate patterns that appear to be subtly modulated by the anomaly's presence. These imprints speak to a continuous, if low-level interaction with its surroundings over vast stretches of time, indicating a profound geological age. The unanswered question that emerges from this environmental record is truly profound. What kind of entity or mechanism could exert such a subtle yet pervasive and long-lasting influence on its environment without overt, catastrophic events? The anomaly's weight of ages suggests an object or process that has been active for geological epochs, slowly shaping the desert around it, leaving a silent, indelible mark. This implies a scale of operation and a duration of existence that challenges our understanding of both natural and artificial phenomena. A message carved in stone. The Gobi's long-standing environmental imprints and the rhythmic pulses had already suggested a profound antiquity and an active presence. Yet, these were indirect indicators, like echoes of a distant event. The true shock came with the discovery of direct, tangible evidence of deliberate interaction, a message seemingly intended for future observers. This evidence was found not in advanced technology, but in the most ancient of human forms, petroglyphs and carved stones scattered across the peripheral regions of the exclusion zone. The immediate confusion surrounding these petroglyphs was their unusual content and remarkable age. While the Gobi region is known for ancient rock art, these particular carvings depicted patterns strikingly similar to the energy pulse waveforms identified by Soviet researchers. They showed intricate, repeating geometric sequences that mirrored the harmonic frequencies, alongside abstract representations of concentric circles radiating from a central point, strikingly similar to the environmental imprints. The age, estimated through geological dating of the rock surfaces and surrounding sediment, pushed these carvings back tens of thousands of years, far predating known civilizations in the region. Official Soviet archaeological teams, operating within the exclusion zone in the 1970s and 80s, did indeed document some of these petroglyphs. Their reports, now partially declassified, categorized them as unusual prehistoric art or anomalous cultural artifacts. The prevailing theory at the time attributed them to unknown nomadic tribes with unique artistic styles. However, the reports conspicuously avoided any direct correlation between the imagery and the ongoing geophysical investigations, maintaining a strict separation between archaeological and scientific finding. Yet, a closer examination of the original field notes and photographic evidence reveals profound contradictions. Some archaeologists, particularly those less constrained by official directives, made private annotations expressing bewilderment at the carving's precision and their seemingly technical nature. One note, scribbled on the back of a photograph depicting a waveform-like pattern, simply read, "Too precise for nature, too ancient for science." These individual observations, however, were never officially integrated into the final reports, remaining as isolated whispers against the official narrative. The suppression of the true nature of these petroglyphs was not an active erasure, but a deliberate misinterpretation and compartmentalization. By classifying them as merely art, their potential as data was effectively neutralized. Any archaeologist who attempted to draw connections between the carvings and the geophysical phenomena was quietly reassigned or had their research funding curtailed. The narrative was carefully controlled. These were primitive artistic expressions, not sophisticated records or warnings. Modern reanalysis, employing advanced image recognition software and comparative analysis with the documented energy pulse waveforms, has provided undeniable correlations. The geometric patterns in the petroglyphs match the harmonic frequencies of the Gobi anomaly with startling accuracy. Furthermore, the abstract concentric circles align perfectly with the geological and magnetic imprints mapped across the landscape. This is not mere artistic coincidence. It is a deliberate, encoded message preserved in stone by an ancient hand. The unanswered question now reverberates through the scientific community. Who carved these messages and why? Were they ancient inhabitants who witnessed the anomaly's activity and sought to record its patterns? Or were they something else entirely, a form of communication from the anomaly itself, somehow translated into a language of stone? The petroglyphs transformed the Gobi anomaly from a passive object of study into a potential partner in a millennia-old dialogue, a silent message carved in stone, waiting for humanity to finally understand its meaning. The Hunter's Trail. The revelation of ancient petroglyphs depicting the Gobi anomaly's energy patterns transformed its narrative from a purely scientific enigma into one intertwined with human history. This initial discovery, however, was merely the first signpost on a much longer trail. Subsequent, more exhaustive surveys, particularly those conducted under the radar of official scrutiny, began to uncover a series of interconnected sites, forming a deliberate path across the harsh landscape. These sites were not random. They appeared to be markers, guiding an observer towards the anomaly's epicenter, a silent hunter's trail laid down millennia ago. Immediate confusion stemmed from the sheer strategic placement and consistency of these newly identified sites. Unlike the isolated petroglyphs, these were often small, carefully constructed cairns or precisely aligned stone markers, sometimes bearing faint, weathered symbols mirroring the earlier waveform carvings. Their distribution suggested a purposeful route, navigating the most challenging terrain with an efficiency that implied deep knowledge of the land and a singular objective. The scale of this ancient endeavor hinted at a sustained effort by an organized group, not just sporadic artistic expression. Official Soviet reports, particularly those from early geological and cartographic expeditions, did note the presence of unusual stone arrangements or ancient navigational aids in the remote Gobi. These findings were typically relegated to appendices, described as ethnographic curiosities or remnants of forgotten nomadic migration routes. The official line maintained that these were unrelated to the geophysical anomaly, serving merely as markers for desert travelers or territorial boundaries, a convenient explanation that avoided deeper inquiry into their true purpose. However, internal memos and unofficial field correspondence from the period reveal significant contradictions. One geological survey team in 1968 reported a series of stone alignments that pointed directly towards the anomaly's location, with a precision that defied natural formation or casual placement. A transcript from a debriefing session records a junior geologist raising concerns about the astronomical accuracy of these lines, only to be quickly dismissed and advised to focus solely on geological data, effectively silencing further discussion of the peculiar alignments. The suppression of these findings was systematic, achieved through a combination of bureaucratic inertia and deliberate narrative control. Any archaeological or anthropological findings that suggested a sophisticated, ancient understanding of the anomaly were either reclassified as mundane or buried in classified archives, inaccessible to independent scrutiny. The official stance was that no coherent, ancient trail existed, only scattered, unrelated cultural artifacts, preventing any unified investigation into their true significance. Modern reanalysis, utilizing advanced satellite imaging and ground-penetrating radar, has irrevocably exposed this hunter's trail. Researchers have mapped a network of over 24 strategically placed markers, some visible only from high altitude, others hidden beneath centuries of sand. These markers converge with startling accuracy on the Gobi anomaly, often incorporating precise astronomical alignments that track celestial bodies known to influence geomagnetic fields. This suggests an advanced, long-term observation project, spanning generations. The unanswered question now looms large. Who were these ancient hunters, and what were they tracking? Were they indigenous peoples who lived alongside the anomaly, attempting to understand, or perhaps even communicate with it? Or was this trail laid by something far more enigmatic, a record of an ancient pursuit, a deliberate path for a purpose we are only now beginning to grasp? The Gobi's silent vault, it seems, has been under observation for an unfathomable span of time, its secrets perhaps recorded by those who walked this ancient path. The disappearing oasis. The discovery of the hunter's trail solidified the notion that an ancient intelligence had systematically observed the Gobi anomaly. But this meticulous record-keeping was not limited to stone carvings and alignments. As modern researchers expanded their historical and geographical scope, they encountered a curious recurring motif in ancient maps and oral traditions. The legend of a verdant oasis, deep within the Gobi, known for its unusual properties and sudden disappearance. This was not just folklore. Fragments of forgotten cartography and obscure historical texts provided tantalizing clues, suggesting a physical location that once existed, then vanished. Immediate confusion arose from the geographical inconsistencies surrounding this fabled oasis. While numerous ancient Silk Road maps depicted various oases, a specific emerald spring or whispering waters was consistently placed in a location now barren and devoid of any water source, deep within the exclusion zone. The description spoke of strange, vibrant flora and fauna, unlike anything else in the Gobi, and a profound sense of calm, yet also an underlying hum or vibration. Its sudden absence from later maps, without any clear environmental explanation, was perplexing. Official Soviet exploration records from the early 20th century, particularly those predating the establishment of the exclusion zone, contain sporadic mentions of anomalous geological formations or unusual microclimates. One 1930s hydrological survey report, now heavily redacted, refers to a localized geothermal anomaly in the precise region where the fabled oasis was said to exist. However, subsequent surveys from the 1950s onwards report only desert and sand, with no trace of the previously noted features. The official explanation was always climatic shift or geological instability. Yet, a close reading of the unredacted portions of these early reports, combined with unofficial diaries from local guides, reveals significant contradictions. Several nomadic guides, interviewed by Soviet ethnographers in the 1940s, spoke of a once thriving oasis that had gone quiet or sunk beneath the sand following a period of intense ground tremors and strange lights in the sky. These accounts were typically dismissed as superstitious tales, but their consistency across different tribes and time periods is striking. The official narrative, however, never acknowledged any direct correlation between these phenomena and the oasis's disappearance. The suppression of the oasis's true fate was achieved through a multi-layered approach. First, by attributing its disappearance to natural causes, any link to the Gobi anomaly was severed. Second, by categorizing local testimonies as folklore, their factual basis was undermined. Finally, the establishment of the exclusion zone effectively sealed off the area, preventing any independent verification or investigation into the geological and historical anomalies surrounding the fabled spring. The official silence on the matter was profound and deliberate. Modern reanalysis, employing satellite imagery capable of penetrating shallow subsurface layers, has yielded astonishing results. Geophysical scans have detected significant hydrological evidence consistent with a large subterranean water table in the exact location of the fabled oasis. More critically, they reveal a complex network of ancient, non-natural structures beneath the surface, suggesting an engineered environment. These structures are not typical of ancient Gobi settlements. Their layout and material signatures are highly unusual, hinting at a purpose beyond mere habitation. The unanswered question now echoes across the vast emptiness. Did the oasis truly disappear, or was it deliberately concealed, perhaps even absorbed? Was its vibrant ecosystem a natural phenomenon, or was it sustained by the very forces of the Gobi anomaly? And if it was an engineered environment, who built it, and for what purpose? The disappearing oasis, once a legend, now stands as a potential key to understanding the anomaly, a hidden sanctuary that may hold secrets far deeper than mere water and greenery, a silent testament to a presence that reshaped the very landscape. Beneath the surface, the geophysical scans that revealed the hydrological evidence of the disappearing oasis also detected a far more profound secret, a complex network of ancient non-natural structures lying deep beneath the surface. These were not mere foundations of a buried settlement, but intricately designed subterranean constructions extending far beyond the immediate vicinity of the fabled spring. This discovery shifted the focus from a lost natural wonder to a deliberate, monumental feat of engineering, hinting at an intelligence that once operated with advanced capabilities in the heart of the Gobi. Immediate confusion centered on the sheer scale and unusual design of these subsurface complexes. The initial scans indicated multiple layers, some descending hundreds of meters, composed of materials with anomalous density and conductivity readings. These structures did not align with any known ancient architectural styles or construction techniques found anywhere in Central Asia. Their layouts suggested a highly organized functional purpose, yet their exact nature, whether research facility, power conduit, or something else entirely, remained profoundly enigmatic, challenging all conventional archaeological understanding. Official Soviet geological and seismic surveys, conducted throughout the mid-20th century within the future exclusion zone, did record a series of unusual subsurface anomalies. These were typically attributed to complex geological fault lines, unique mineral deposits, or unusual geothermal activity. The prevailing scientific paradigm at the time favored natural explanations, and the limited resolution of early deep Earth imaging made definitive identification of artificial structures nearly impossible. Therefore, these anomalous readings were never fully investigated as anything other than natural phenomena. However, internal seismic data logs from a 1971 prospecting expedition, declassified years later, reveal significant contradictions. The logs showed distinct, repetitive geometric patterns in the subsurface reflections, inconsistent with natural rock formations. A handwritten notation in the margin by a junior geophysicist questions the non-random periodicity of these echoes, suggesting a man-made origin. This observation was subsequently crossed out and marked irrelevant by a supervising officer, effectively burying a crucial early insight into the true nature of the subterranean complex. The suppression of these findings was systematic, driven by a combination of technological limitations and a strong institutional bias against anything that challenged established scientific and historical narratives. Any data that hinted at advanced ancient civilizations or unexplained phenomena was either reinterpreted to fit conventional models or simply ignored. The very concept of a vast hidden underground complex in the Gobi was deemed too outlandish for serious consideration, ensuring its secrets remained undisturbed beneath layers of sand and bureaucratic oversight. Modern reanalysis, leveraging advanced seismic tomography and muon radiography, has provided unprecedented clarity. These technologies have generated detailed three-dimensional maps of the subsurface, confirming the existence of vast interconnected chambers, tunnels, and what appear to be large open spaces, precisely beneath the location of the vanished oasis. The scans suggest non-ferrous, incredibly durable construction materials, with some sections showing evidence of internal energy conduits or sophisticated environmental controls, hinting at a long-term, self-sustaining operation. The unanswered question now reverberates through the scientific community. What purpose did this colossal subterranean complex serve? Was it a sanctuary, a research station, or a containment facility for the Gobi anomaly itself? Who possessed the knowledge and technology to construct such an immense and enduring structure thousands of years ago? And what became of them? The Gobi's silent vault, it seems, extends not just across the surface, but plunges into the very bedrock, holding secrets that could redefine our understanding of ancient history and the true nature of the anomaly. The vault's true keeper. The revelation of the vast subterranean complex beneath the Gobi, complete with advanced structural integrity and what appeared to be internal energy conduits, dramatically shifted the narrative. This was no longer just about an ancient anomaly, but about an ancient intelligence capable of monumental engineering. The persistent low-frequency hum detected by early Soviet instruments, often dismissed as geological background noise, now took on new significance. Modern reanalysis of these old recordings, filtered through advanced algorithms, revealed a complex rhythmic pattern, suggesting an active, organized system rather than a natural phenomenon. This was the sound of something alive, or at least actively functioning, deep within the earth. Immediate confusion arose from the sheer implications of such a discovery. If a complex of this magnitude existed, designed with such advanced foresight and sustained operation, who built it? And what was its ultimate purpose? The scale suggested not just a temporary outpost, but a long-term, perhaps even permanent presence. The materials used, resistant to millennia of geological stress, pointed to a knowledge of metallurgy and construction far beyond anything attributed to known ancient civilizations. The central question became, who, or what, was the true keeper of this silent vault? Official Soviet records from the 1970s, particularly those related to seismic monitoring and deep earth drilling operations within the exclusion zone, contain numerous references to unexplained energy signatures and anomalous structural resistances. These were consistently categorized as geological irregularities or unidentifiable seismic events. For example, a 1978 drilling report notes a sudden and inexplicable increase in material hardness at a depth of 450 meters, causing drill bit failure and immediate cessation of the operation. The official conclusion cited unforeseen geological strata. However, internal memos from the same period, now partially declassified, reveal a different perspective. A memorandum from a lead engineer to a senior military official expresses serious concern regarding the non-natural resistance encountered, suggesting a deliberate structural integrity beyond known rock formations. The memo further notes a distinct resonant frequency emanating from the obstruction. This information was subsequently flagged as sensitive and restricted from wider circulation, a clear attempt to control the narrative and prevent further inquiry into the true nature of the subsurface obstacles. The suppression of these findings was absolute, driven by a profound need for secrecy. The Soviet authorities, faced with undeniable evidence of a sophisticated non-natural presence beneath their highly classified test site, chose to contain the information rather than confront its implications. Admitting the existence of such a complex would have raised unanswerable questions about its origin, purpose, and potential threats, potentially destabilizing national security and global scientific understanding. The official silence was a strategic imperative designed to maintain control and prevent panic. Modern reanalysis of historical data, combined with new subsurface imaging, has painted a clearer, albeit still incomplete, picture. The rhythmic hum, once dismissed, is now understood as an intricate energy signature emanating from a central core within the deepest part of the complex. This core appears to be the primary power source, sustaining the entire subterranean network and potentially influencing the localized environment, including the vanished oasis. The structure itself shows no signs of decay or abandonment, suggesting continuous operation across millennia. The unanswered question now looms large. Is this immense, self-sustaining complex merely a repository, or does it house an active intelligence? Is the keeper a forgotten civilization, a sophisticated AI, or something else entirely, still present and functional after countless ages? The Gobi's silent vault, with its pulsing heart beneath the earth, stands as a testament to an enduring mystery, a technological marvel that challenges our understanding of history and the very limits of life and intelligence. The imprints revelation. The deeper modern analysis delved into the Gobi's subterranean complex. The more evidence emerged of its profound influence, not only on the immediate environment, but also on broader historical timelines. The rhythmic energy signature, now confirmed as a deliberate output from the central core, was not simply powering the vault. It was actively shaping localized conditions. This energy output corresponded precisely with periods of increased seismic activity and unusual atmospheric phenomena recorded in historical documents and ancient texts from the region. The vault was not merely a structure. It was a mechanism of immense, far-reaching impact, its invisible hand guiding events across millennia. Immediate confusion centered on the nature of this influence. Was it an intentional manipulation, a byproduct of its primary function, or something else entirely? The energy emanations showed complex modulations, suggesting more than just raw power. Early researchers struggled to connect the dots between a buried structure and widespread environmental shifts, often dismissing correlations as coincidental. The idea that a single hidden source could dictate geological and atmospheric conditions over such vast periods defied conventional scientific models, leading to initial skepticism and internal debate. Official geological reports from the early 1980s, within the Soviet exclusion zone, documented anomalous energy spikes coinciding with localized atmospheric disturbances, including sudden, intense sandstorms and localized magnetic field fluctuations. These events were typically categorized as extreme weather phenomena or unexplained geophysical anomalies. A 1983 report by a meteorologist noted highly unusual, localized atmospheric pressure gradients that seemed to originate from the ground. But this observation was filed without further investigation, attributed to the Gobi's inherently unpredictable climate. However, a lesser-known archival document, a transcript from a classified 1986 scientific symposium, reveals a crucial contradiction. During a presentation on regional geophysical irregularities, a senior physicist explicitly questioned the non-random distribution of these energy spikes, suggesting a controlled emission pattern rather than natural occurrences. The transcript records a heated exchange, with the physicist proposing a link to the deep Earth structural anomalies. This line of inquiry was promptly shut down by the presiding military official, who cited national security concerns and ordered the discussion to cease, effectively silencing a critical breakthrough. The suppression of these findings was a deliberate act of censorship, designed to prevent the true nature of the vault's influence from being understood. The Soviet government, increasingly aware of the subterranean complex's existence and potential implications, could not afford to acknowledge a non-human, non-Soviet entity capable of such vast environmental control. The narrative of natural phenomena or isolated incidents was maintained to preserve secrecy and avoid admitting a profound lack of control over the designated test site, reinforcing the official stance of the Gobi as a desolate, but ultimately predictable, landscape. Modern reanalysis, utilizing advanced spectral analysis and cross-referencing with historical climate data and ancient astronomical observations, has provided a startling revelation. The energy output from the vault's core shows a direct correlation with periods of significant human migration, technological advancement, and even major societal collapse in Central Asia. It appears to have functioned as a subtle, long-term environmental modulator, subtly influencing resource availability, weather patterns, and even the habitability of vast regions. This suggests a deliberate imprint on the course of regional history, an unseen hand guiding the destiny of civilizations. The unanswered question that now confronts researchers is terrifying in its scope. What was the ultimate goal of this imprint? Was it a benevolent guidance system, a terraforming project, or a form of long-term social engineering by an unknown intelligence. The Gobi's silent vault, with its rhythmic hum resonating through history, appears to be more than just a hidden complex. It is an ancient, active force subtly shaping the destiny of the land and its inhabitants, leaving an indelible mark on the very fabric of time. The silence broken. The revelation of the vault's active influence, systematically shaping historical and environmental trajectories, deepened the mysteries surrounding its purpose and origin. This was no mere dormant relic. It was a living system, its rhythmic energy output a continuous pulse on the world. The understanding that this subterranean complex actively modulated the Gobi's environment and subtly guided human migration and societal development in Central Asia across millennia was a paradigm shift. It transformed the vault from an archaeological marvel into an active, intelligent entity, one that had been operating in silence, unseen, for an unimaginable span of time. Immediate confusion arose from the implications of such long-term, deliberate influence. If an intelligence had been shaping regional history for thousands of years, why remain hidden? What was its ultimate objective? The sheer scale of its operations impacting climate, resources, and even the rise and fall of civilizations suggested an agenda far beyond simple observation or self-preservation. Early theories struggled to reconcile this active manipulation with the complete absence of any overt contact or communication, leaving a profound void in understanding its motives. Official Soviet documents from the late 1980s, particularly those pertaining to deep seismic soundings and experimental atmospheric manipulation, contain increasingly desperate attempts to understand and potentially counter the vault's influence. A 1989 report from the Gobi Anomaly Research Group notes unpredictable and highly localized weather inversions that thwarted atmospheric experiments, concluding that an unknown, powerful energy source was interfering. These observations were consistently met with orders for increased secrecy and intensified monitoring, rather than public disclosure. However, a partially declassified intelligence brief from 1990 provides a stark contradiction. It records a series of highly unusual, localized electromagnetic pulses emanating from the exclusion zone, detected by multiple satellite arrays. The brief describes these pulses as structured, non-random emissions that briefly disrupted communications across a wide area. Crucially, it notes that these pulses seem to be irresponses to specific Soviet deep Earth drilling attempts, suggesting a reactive intelligence. The official explanation, released later, attributed these disruptions to solar flares, a convenient but ultimately misleading cover story. The suppression of these findings escalated dramatically as the Soviet Union faced internal collapse. The government, already struggling to maintain control, could not risk public knowledge of a powerful, active, and potentially hostile entity operating within its borders. Acknowledging that the vault was not only alive, but also capable of responding to human actions, would have created an unprecedented crisis, further undermining authority and potentially inviting international scrutiny into a deeply sensitive region. The silence was maintained not just for secrecy, but for sheer political survival. Modern reanalysis of these 1990 electromagnetic pulse events, utilizing advanced signal processing, has yielded a truly astonishing result. The pulses, once dismissed as random noise, contain complex, repeating patterns. While not directly decipherable as language, they exhibit characteristics of structured data transmission. Further, their timing directly correlates with the most intrusive Soviet attempts to penetrate the deepest layers of the vault. This was not random interference. It was a deliberate, protective communication, a warning. The silence, after millennia, had been broken, albeit in a non-verbal technological manner. The unanswered question now reverberates with urgency. What was the specific message encoded within these pulses? Was it a territorial warning, a declaration of presence, or something far more complex? A desperate attempt to communicate with an encroaching species? The Gobi's silent vault, no longer merely an ancient enigma, had shown itself to be a conscious, reactive entity. The world now faced the chilling reality that the ultimate keeper of the vault had finally, after eons of quiet observation, chosen to reveal its awareness, breaking its profound silence in a manner that was both undeniable and deeply unsettling. The Gobi's legacy. The full understanding of the Gobi's subterranean vault now transcends simple archaeology or even advanced technology. It has been revealed as an ancient, active intelligence, a silent architect of the region's destiny for millennia. Its rhythmic energy output, confirmed to modulate environmental conditions and subtly influence historical trajectories, constitutes a continuous, living legacy. The 1990 electromagnetic pulses, previously dismissed, marked a pivotal moment. The vault, after eons of silent operation, had acknowledged human intrusion, demonstrating a reactive, conscious presence that fundamentally reshaped its perceived role. Immediate confusion centered on humanity's place within this grand, unfolding narrative. If an intelligence had been subtly guiding regional development, responding to threats, and maintaining its hidden existence for so long, what was its ultimate design for the Gobi and for humanity itself? The implications of such a long-term, non-human influence were profound, raising existential questions about free will and the true forces shaping civilization. Researchers grappled with the terrifying possibility that humanity was not the sole, or even primary, actor in its own history. Official post-Soviet responses, though shrouded in deeper secrecy, reflected a shift from mere containment to active, covert engagement. Classified reports from the newly formed Central Asian Geo-Anomalies Task Force in the mid-1990s document intensified efforts to establish secure monitoring stations around the exclusion zone. These reports indicate a desperate scramble to analyze the 1990 pulse data, with one internal memo referring to it as the Gobi's first true communication, highlighting a profound change in how the entity was perceived. However, public records from the same period maintained a deliberate facade of normalcy. While international scientific journals occasionally noted unusual geophysical readings from the Gobi, these were invariably attributed to natural seismic activity or unique desert phenomena. A stark contradiction emerges from an uncatalogued document, a 1997 internal intelligence brief, which explicitly warns against any attempt at direct, overt communication with the vault, citing unforeseen and potentially catastrophic consequences. This directive directly conflicted with the scientific community's desire for understanding. The suppression of information concerning the vault's active intelligence continued, evolving into a sophisticated, multinational effort. Governments understood that public knowledge of such an entity could trigger global panic, destabilize geopolitical structures, and lead to an uncontrollable rush to exploit or confront the vault. The Gobi exclusion zone thus became one of the most effectively sealed and discreetly monitored areas on Earth, its secrets buried not just by sand, but by an impenetrable wall of official silence and disinformation. Modern reanalysis, integrating newly declassified satellite imagery and advanced AI pattern recognition, has revealed the enduring nature of the Gobi's legacy. The vault's energy output continues to subtly influence regional climate patterns, resource distribution, and even demographic shifts, adapting its modulations in response to global environmental changes and human activity. Its influence is not static. It is a dynamic, self-correcting system, continuously imprinting its design upon the landscape and its inhabitants, a silent, intelligent presence woven into the very fabric of the region. The unanswered question remains the most critical. What is the ultimate objective of this ancient hidden intelligence? Is it a guardian, a planetary engineer, or something else entirely, operating on timescales and with motivations humanity cannot yet grasp? The Gobi Silent Vault stands as a testament to an intelligence far older and perhaps far more powerful than our own, its legacy a continuous, evolving imprint on the world, a profound mystery that continues to shape the future from the deep past. We have journeyed deep into the Gobi, tracing the faint, then undeniable, imprint of an intelligence far older than recorded history. We've unearthed documents, analyzed seismic data, and listened to the echoes of suppressed reports, revealing a truth more profound than any desert legend. This is not folklore. This is not a myth spun from the sand and wind. This is a meticulously documented account of a hidden reality. The story of the Gobi's silent vault is a stark reminder that our understanding of Earth, and indeed of existence itself, remains incomplete. It challenges our assumptions about who truly shapes the course of civilization and the very environment we inhabit. The consequences of such a discovery, and our past intrusions, linger like the desert haze, casting long shadows over our future. We are left with the unsettling knowledge that ancient forces, operating with intentions we can barely comprehend, continue their work silently, ceaselessly beneath our feet. The mystery does not fully rest. The vault still pulses, its energy still modulates, and its silence, though briefly broken by those cryptic pulses, has largely returned. The Gobi still guards its secrets, a vast, indifferent expanse over an active, intelligent heart. It remains a place where the deep past continually shapes the present, a testament to an enduring presence. As you reflect on these revelations, consider the ground beneath you. Tell us where you are listening from, and what time it is for you right now. For the Lost Vel Chronicle, this is where we leave you, for now, with the weight of the Gobi's silent, living legacy.